Hi, everyone. It's Sunday, and I am going to start doing these informal chats on Sundays. I'd like to report to you as to what's been happening during the week in the field, in the world of small business sales, acquisitions. If you're somebody that's looking to buy a business, this is going to be a very grassroots type update. I'm not going to report on what's happening in the news. I'm going to report on what I see happening in the field. So let's get started. First thing I wanted to chat with you about today was timelines to selling a business. Whenever you start looking up how long it's going to take, there's a ton of really good information online, and you'll be told that it's going to take minimum 6 to 12 months, but sometimes it can take up to 3 years. You'll see different sources citing that. Something I hadn't thought about before, and I think this extends the timeline and means that the need for preparing earlier is even more important now. So I spoke to two business owners who have retired. They retired within the last 9 months. And I just did a check-in with them to see how it was going. What was it like for them on the other side of retirement, of selling their business? How was it emotionally for them? And what was the process? Because I have a business brokerage firm. I work to help people get to that point. But then there are things that happen beyond that. And things you'll need to think about if you are preparing to sell a business is you can find information on my YouTube channel or online about this, but there's a process to sell a business. But let's say it takes you a year to sell your business. So here we are in February 2025. It takes you 1 year to sell the business. The goal of selling the business is to get to retirement, right? So beyond that, what else will you have to do? For the people I spoke to, they were going to relocate. They wanted to be closer to their family. So they had to not only sell their business, but also sell their house. That took an additional 6 months. Then they had to wrap up all their personal affairs in the state they lived in and find somewhere to move to. So the timeline wasn't their business sold. It took, let's say, a year and a half to sell that business. Their timeline was 2 years to be fully retired and engage in activities that were technically retirement activities. So joining clubs, maybe spent Christmas with their children. As you plan, as you say, I'd like to retire by, let's say, 65. With that timeline in place, if you plan to relocate, because many retirees do, if you plan to relocate, you need 2 years for a 1 year to 18-month project to sell the business. Now, if you're going to stay in your local town and in your house, you can pull that timeline back and you don't need as much time. But it's something I just haven't thought about how important that is for clients and for you selling a business. So I think taking a holistic approach to the whole retirement plan, like what do you actually want to be doing? And then making sure that, let's just say if you're 63 right now and you have a goal in mind to retire at 65, well, then now you know, okay, you've got the selling of the business portion, but then you've got the setting up of your life to how you want it to be when you're retired. So that is some food for thought. And it's something that when we had this conversation, myself and the retired business owners, they pointed that out. They said, oh, this is actually probably all said and done. There'll be a year to where they want to be after selling the business because they're going to do some family shuffling and they all want to live closer to each other. So on the personal side, 1 year after they sold their business is when they're going to be living the life that they had planned for their retirement. So food for thought, right? Something to think about. The next thing that we need to kind of look at and debunk or demystify is selling solo. So the second point I wanted to go over for this Sunday informal session is selling solo. This is what I'm seeing. People are, which is great. This is a fantastic position to be in. People are finding themselves, I know multiple business owners that are finding themselves in a position where they are able to discreetly off market begin discussions about selling their business. And I'm calling it selling solo because they're doing it on their own. They're not engaging an accountant. They're not engaging a lawyer. They're just talking directly with a buyer. This is where somebody may have been approached by a friendly competitor, a customer, or an employee, and they're just having discussions. The selling solo person is gathering information about the business, like the value of the